Yo, it's me, CSCOTT, baby. We're here. We finally here. The Star Wars sequel trilogy. The final part of my retrospective. And then I will give you a review for The Mandalorian later today. So, alright, so in the last several years, Star Wars has become this thing where, like, there have been one coming out every year. Like, there's Force Awakens in 2015, and then 2016 was Rogue One. 2017 was The Last Jedi. 2018 was Solo. 2019 was The Rise of Skywalker. One every year, which is not, maybe it's overabundance of Star Wars at this point. But that shows that Disney was committed to making new Star Wars content. However, us as fans weren't used to that. It was exhaustion, because think about this. First Star Wars came out in 1977. Now, we hadn't had a Star Wars film since 1983 with Return of the Jedi until 1999. 16 years. Right? And then the last film, after that was in 2006. So nearly 10 years. Do yourself too. Nearly 10 years before a new Star Wars film came out. And yes, there's some retread. But I don't get, I get there's some retread with The Force Awakens, but what I don't get, people say, oh, it's a carbon copy of A New Hope. It's the same movie. How? One, the main character is a female instead of a male. Yes, she lives in the middle of nowhere, but she has no family. She lives by herself. The main male character, who I guess would be sort of the Han Solo, is a fighter pilot for the New Republic, or the Resistance, as they say. He's a fighter pilot for the Resistance. And he has the droid that gets left behind. Yes, there's a droid, but it's one droid, not two. Yes, it's a droid similar to R2-D2 that has something inside it that needs to get somewhere. But it's not the same. And then you have Finn, who, okay, so the only character you could say is like the original is Rey. She's close to Luke Skywalker, right? She's very close to Luke Skywalker. She lives on a desolate planet. Her parents are basically nobody, which we find out in The Last Jedi, which pissed a lot of people off. And you can say, oh, what they said in The Rise of Skywalker doesn't help it. It's just retconning, maybe, but it makes sense. They were nobody because they needed to be nobody. It makes a lot of sense. And people just, oh, it's just retconning for retconning for retconning. And yes, when it comes to continuity and telling a complete story, this trilogy does not. And the reason, and I'm not going off on Rian Johnson on this, alright? It's not his fault. He made a movie. Alright? It's not his fault. The problem was that they should have had J.J. Abrams direct all three films, not just one and give it to someone else. Yes, they did that with the original trilogy, but George Lucas was heavily involved. What happened here is that J.J. Abrams is an executive producer. I don't think he had much to do. And yes, Rian Johnson has gone on record and saying that J.J. was okay with the changes I made. He was just an executive producer. You were a director, I know sometimes producers force their way into it, but who's to say whether or not he had much of any say in The Last Jedi? You know? And yes, the biggest problem with The Last Jedi is that Rian Johnson decided to wrap up all the questions left over from the previous film and not consider, hey, we gotta make a trilogy here, not just a sequel. You know what I mean? Like, the one, and I mentioned this in my review, the one thing that disappointed me about The Force Awakens is I was ready to see my favorite characters I grew up with. Fuck the prequels. This was sequels to the 3 films I grew up with. I was ready for Luke, Leia, Han. Yes, they're old, but I was ready for them. What we got? We got Leia. We got Han. Do we get Luke? 5 seconds, maybe 50 seconds worth. If even. And I knew that's what was going to happen. As soon as they said, it's the map to Skywalker, I'm like, this whole movie is going to be about finding him, and he'll have maybe 5 minutes in the movie, at best. And you know what? That's exactly what happened. As soon as they said, the droid contains the map to Skywalker, I'm like, and he got top billing. Like, he was billed top. You know, Mark says, yeah, top billing. Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher. Mark Hamill's in 5 minutes of this fucking movie, and he got top billing with the other 2 stars. The fact that, you know, and he does nothing but just stand there. He doesn't say a word, nothing. That's the only thing that really made me mad about this film, was that, bro, it's the return of Luke Skywalker, and you know, and his name, you know, he's touted as being the star of this film. 5 minutes at the end of the film. 5 minutes. Okay, so we're going to see Luke a lot more in the next one, right? But then we had questions. Questions left over, like, where did the lightsaber come from? We never find that out. Like, because Maz Kanata gives them Luke Skywalker's lightsaber. Not the one he had in Jedi, the one from Empire when his hand was chopped off. That one. How? So it's Anakin Skywalker's blade from the original trilogy, from the prequel trilogies. That lightsaber. Where did it come from? That's the one question in 3 films they never answered. What else? There was a lot of story you could tell with Finn. And maybe they had more in mind with him. He's a reformed stormtrooper. There's some story you can go through. What do they do? He gets one moment in The Last Jedi where he kills Phasma. That's it. Who is Phasma? I don't fucking know. There's not much to tell about her. Who are Rey's parents? Nobody's. But like I said, that's justified. They kill off Snoke. Who's Snoke? What is Snoke? We don't know. Oh, he's a clone of Palpatine made him. Palpatine? Yeah, see, I think if J.J. Abrams had stayed on, like they say that Palpatine was always the plan, right? If that's the case, why wasn't there any hint of him in the first 2 films? These 2 films. Not even one hint. All of a sudden, this starts and the dead speak. Transmission sent. Suddenly, like Emperor Palpatine, all of a sudden he's alive. I know in the books and stuff, he created clones. But they haven't acknowledged any of the stuff from the books or the extra material. But they're keeping that in. What? And they don't, you know, he created Snoke. But what was he? You know, there's not much of anything. And then Kylo Ren gets his redemption, but he killed Han Solo. And we're supposed to have that one moment where a Force ghost or something of Han Solo pops up. And that's supposed to tell us it was okay, because now he's going to be a hero. Well, that doesn't make it okay. And as for how Han could do that, well, think about this. When they met Han, he didn't believe in the Force. But I bet you by the end of the original trilogy, he sure as damn well believed. Though he may not have shown it, he probably believed before he died. Who knows? They said before, and fuck the midichlorian thing from the prequels, okay? That's, nah. The Force is in everyone. That's what Luke is telling him. Luke was telling him, the Force is in everyone and everything, not just Jedi. So Han could do that if he wanted. It's inside him too. It's everywhere. It's what flows through the universe. No midichlorians. You know, it's not just Jedi that can use it. If you're one with the Force, because think of this. Rogue One, right? Donnie Yen. He wasn't a Jedi, but he was one with the Force. See? You don't need to be a Jedi. And as far as Luke's death, that's the one thing that pisses people off too, is, oh, Luke died. But I get it. Oh, they're just doing that because, we're pushing the next generation. Everyone's going to die now. And yes, it is one death per movie. But I was even surprised they didn't kill Leia off in Last Jedi. But then seeing Luke's death, I'm like, okay, that makes sense, but I didn't. But he's not dead. Well, he's dead, but if you're one with the Force, you're never truly dead. You live on through the Force. Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, Yoda, Anakin, Luke, Leia, even Han, all live on because of their connection to the Force. And even Kylo Ren, spoiler alert, even Kylo Ren could live on. The Force healing thing. People are like, oh, that's shoehorned in. Not really. Not really. It's been seen before. It's in a video game, for God's sake. Force healing. It's been in video games before, Force healing. But it's a known thing. It's been used before. And people say, oh, I don't like the fact that you have to use up all your life energy to do it. That's kind of stupid, but it's like, she does it or Leia does it and then she dies. And then Ben does it, or Kylo Ren does it, and he dies, but it's like, and I said this in my review, I don't like how redemption stories have to end with the person who gets redemption dying to get that redemption. You know what I mean? Like, Kylo Ren becomes the hero, and he dies. Anakin Skywalker finally shows himself and kills the Emperor. He denounces, Darth Vader saves his son from the Emperor, but dies. Kylo Ren gets his redemption, but he dies. I don't get that. I never gotten it. Why does the villain getting redemption have to die? If the person going for redemption dies, then they're not there to live in that moment, to get their respect from people, to get that recognition for that redemption. They just die, and it's like, oh, okay, I'm dying. Why did I do this again? You can say, oh, they knew there's a possibility they could die. Then why'd they do it? I don't know. The Rise of Skywalker is a mixed bag, because there's so much, like, they blow up that cargo thing, and as soon as the lightning come out, I'm like, oh, they're not doing this, because months earlier they said that Rey is Palpatine's granddaughter. I'm like, no, don't do that. That's stupid. Don't do it. They did it. They did it. And then when that lightning thing came out, I'm like, oh, son of a bitch. But first of all, that's not a Palpatine inherited trait. Vader could do it. Yeah, Anakin does it. In Revenge of the Sith. Anyone can do it. If their hearts are dark enough. If they can do it. It's not just like or not Vader. What was I thinking? And it's not, I'm an idiot. It's not Vader. It's the apprentice from the video game. The Force Unleashed video game. The guy on there, he could use the lightning. It's not just Palpatine. It's not just the Palpatine bloodline that can do it. Anyone can do it if they're part of the dark side. They embrace the dark side. She's not part of the dark side. Her being able to do the lightning makes no sense. What's more, you have a bulk cargo ship that supposedly contained Chewie. Chewbacca, a beloved character, and you have people that could possibly be crying in that movie theater, seeing it. No, there's people who had, like me, been a fan of the original films since I was a kid. I was like, Chewie! And then the next scene, he's alive. What? Why pull on our heartstrings like that? It makes no sense. And the ending to the film, yes, I'm talking more about the Rise of Skywalker, but the ending to the film is what really pissed me off, because I knew what it was going to do. They're like, she's like, what's your name? She's like, Rey. They're like, what's your last name? I'm like, don't say it. Don't say it. Don't say it. She's like, Skywalker. I'm like, no! No, you don't get to say that name. You didn't earn that name. I'm sorry, but no. She's not a Skywalker. She's not. And everybody was saying, oh, her parents, she's Luke's daughter, or she's related to the Skywalkers or something. And she, no, she's Palpatine's granddaughter. And she should have said Palpatine, not Skywalker. All that was a fan service that didn't make any sense. For her to say Skywalker, it's absolute bullshit. Absolute bullshit. That's not the story you should be telling. Her saying, oh, I'm a Skywalker now because I connected with Luke and Leia. No. Yes, they say that, oh, family, family is what you call family. Like, you can call some of your best friends your brothers. Because you're that close. Or if you had this babysitter that took care of you more than your parents do, you can call them mom. A secondary mom to you. Like a mother to you because they took care of you. I have a secondary grandmother. She used to babysit me when I was younger. But to go out and say, oh, okay, I'm Skywalker just because I was close with that man. No. What should have happened was that she should have embraced her heritage and said Palpatine. Because that's what makes sense. Is that she embraces it and says Palpatine, not Skywalker. Just because the movie's called The Rise of Skywalker. And that's the only reason why you did it, J.J. Abrams. Oh, the movie's Rise of Skywalker. She's got to say Skywalker. But third, does it make more sense if she says Palpatine? No! I'm in charge. She says Skywalker. Okay, third. In this trilogy, each trilogy tells a complete story. It might not be the best stories in the case of the prequels, but each trilogy is supposed to tell a complete story. The prequel trilogy does, the original trilogy does. But this trilogy, one, because I had two separate directors on the project and they didn't collaborate, even though J.J. Abrams was an executive producer on Last Jedi, it got disjointed. So instead of having this, like it should have been, it went all over the place. Because story elements were wrapped up in Last Jedi, and then JJ just said, well, I'm just going to retcon a bunch of stuff for this one. And characters we were interested in finding out about, like Maz Kanata or Supreme Leader Snoke, were thrown to the wayside. In the case of Snoke, he was killed just because Rian Johnson didn't know what to do with him. And Maz Kanata was put into the background. She had a cameo in the second one, and she was barely in the third one. All because they also didn't know what to do with her. How about explaining where she got the fucking lightsaber from? That's never explained. That's the one question they never bothered to answer. The only thing we got was her giving the lightsaber to Luke and him going and throwing it behind him. That's it. Now, I've stood up for the sequels. I don't think they're as bad as the prequels. But when it comes to trying to tell a complete story over 3 films, they fail. They completely fail because it doesn't work. One, they should have had the same director doing things. See, for all the flack that George Lucas has gotten, he had stuff mapped out. He had a plan. He had this whole thing. He envisioned it as 9 films from the get-go, but didn't have enough money or means to do it. And after the prequels were shit on, he's like, I'm not doing it anymore. It took money for him to sell it so they can make more. And the thing with George Lucas, as crappy as those prequels are, and they're shit. Well, mostly. They had passion behind them. These were done as a passion. Alright? These were done to make money. That's the difference. They didn't put enough care into these films because they didn't care enough to put it into these films. Yes, we see our favorite characters come back to the big screen, but there's not enough care put into it to give us, you know, and you can say, oh, what, there was care put in the prequels? Yes. George Lucas put his all into those prequels. Why do you think he didn't make any sequels? His feelings were hurt when they were shit over because those were his, I don't know if he has any actual children, but these are his children. These are what he spent most of his life doing. And when the prequels got done, and people shat on them because, it's writing and stuff like that. That happens. And he's like, well, I'm not going to make any more then, even though he had plans. And, maybe it could have been different. Maybe we could have had them done earlier, had people not, And it's a shame people's feelings can get hurt like that. That people can, in this day and age, there's going to be haters. And it's a shame that George Lucas, couldn't get past it. But, there's some people that can't, you just can't. They take too much criticism and they're just like, you know what? They're going to criticize me and everything I do. I'm not going to do anymore. And that's what happened. So then along comes J.J. Abrams. Along comes Disney. They buy it out. And we get these. Not done because of a passion for the franchise. I mean, Disney bought out the rights to Star Wars and said, hey, we're going to make Star Wars sequels. Who do we know that has a history with the sci-fi genre? Bing! Oh, yeah, that J.J. Abrams guy, he did a Star Trek. He could do Star Wars. The only problem is that J.J. Abrams didn't have the passion of George Lucas. He didn't have that experience in the Star Wars universe as George Lucas. If they had hired George Lucas as a consultant or executive producer or at least somebody to run stuff by and say, hey, no, do this, and have a little bit of help, have some input in some way, but no. Lucas didn't want anything to do with it because he figured, oh, I sold off the money. It's not my problem. And, even if he did try, who knows if they would have listened to him, you know what I mean? It's just, it's frustrating when you think about how these, though questionable some of the choices may be, are complete stories. And even though he's made alterations to the film, it's just because he's trying to make a more complete story. Trying to make them more well-rounded and stuff. He's just trying to add on and make things better. Like clunky, I'll never get why he changed that, but when you get to the Disney-produced Star Wars films, as much as I'm enjoying The Mandalorian, the reason these were made was because Star Wars is a hot commodity and we can make money off of it. You know, it's just... And it's a shame that I had to go out on the whimper that was The Last Skywalker, because that really kind of just... As much as I don't hate on it as much as the other people do, but it's been divisive. Like, The Last Jedi, people hated on that, and I didn't hate on it. I don't think any of the Star Wars films are bad. Okay, Attack of the Clones, but I don't think any of the Star Wars sequels are that bad, to be honest. I enjoy them, but when I try to compare them to the first two trilogies, there's not a complete story here. You have the first part of it, like what could be the first part of a story, and you have this thing that gets shoved in the middle and completes the story, and then this has to be, oh no, we have to retcon so we can finish the story, bring in Palpatine, even though, and you can sit there and go blue in the face, telling me, oh, he was the end game the whole time. No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. You're like, how can we finish this? Oh, Palpatine. He's been in every trilogy, right? Put him in here. Ugh. I didn't want to go off on a tangent. I didn't want to go out on a bad note, but yeah, it's very obvious that they just made these Star Wars movies for money, and they don't have the care that George Lucas put into these films. You know, why do you think it took him from 1983, 1999? Because he wanted, you know, he needed the technology, and he wanted to make sure they were done right. And then took 10 years, almost 10 years, and we got these that didn't have the same care as George Lucas. And say what you want about George Lucas, now he handled the prequels. At least he did it with, you know, the love and the care of the franchise that he created, whereas Disney just wanted to make money off of it. I'm just saying. But overall, I love the Star Wars franchise, and that love's not going away anytime soon, but maybe I don't hate the Star Wars sequel trilogy, but they could be more, they could be less disjointed than they are. Because when you're trying to make a complete trilogy, look at Lord of the Rings, right? That's a complete trilogy where you have, like, stuff to leave off on and then continue, you know, the story. Where here, it doesn't. And yes, not all the movies pick up right where they left off, like the Hobbit or the Lord of the Rings, but it just, you know, at least they try to tell a complete story, where this just it's disjointed, and it's like, this is the start of a story, and then we're going to continue with this, but then we're going to just end, and then we're going to do this one, which is supposed to continue this. How can you continue this when all the questions are answered? We're going to force stuff in, and it just can... You see what I mean? It doesn't work. But I don't want to ramble anymore. I got 2 more episodes of Mandalorian left, and I'll give my review for that. Till then, what are your thoughts on the Star Wars sequel trilogy? What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. I've been Scotty. Like, share, and subscribe. And may the Force be with you.